What is going on, guys? It is Josh here with Buckeye Bow Hunter, and welcome back to another video. Today, I want to talk about something that I haven't talked about in a long time, and that's what video equipment am I using this fall with me to self-film. So stay tuned, and we're going to talk about it. Alright guys, so I made a video about the self-filming equipment that I used maybe like 2 years ago, and it's still one of the most highly viewed videos I have. I get a ton of comments and questions about, the gear I'm using and what I recommend and stuff like that. So I figured I'd just make a new video and kind of get out there the equipment that I'm using and what I recommend, because it's a lot different than that video. I've progressed as a videographer. I'm a videographer. That's what I do in my day job now in the corporate world. So I've kind of learned a ton, and I've taken what I've learned and I've kind of tried to apply it to making deer hunting videos, because that's like what I'm really passionate about, and upping the quality of those videos a lot. I think that first video I made is still really relevant to anybody who's, trying to up their video quality from like cell phone footage, and the price points and whatever for each of those types of cameras, and just getting into the whole self-filming world, right? And making it as easy as possible. And that's what a lot of those, you'll see I don't have any camcorders sitting on this desk. I was always a really big proponent of using camcorders because they're simple and they're easy to use. When you're filming a deer hunt and you're trying to shoot a deer and film at the same time, the easier the better. But if you're somebody who wants to like really up your quality of deer hunting footage, trying to get that National Geographic or look or something like what, there's a bunch of channels and stuff out there that has just amazing like cinematic quality footage, like Heartland Bow Hunter or Seek One. Those guys do an amazing job. But if you're someone who's trying to kind of emulate that or do, a lot higher quality work, this video is probably for you. Using a camera like this really forces you to learn how to use a camera. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started self-filming, I didn't know what shutter speed was and f-stop and, crop sensor and like all this stuff, lighting and your multimeter and all that. Like, I didn't know what any of that stuff meant. I just pointed and shot. I'm the type of guy who likes to, really get good at anything that I'm into, and learning how to use cameras and what all that means, and getting fluent in that language and being able to get the most out of your equipment is something that really interests me. And that's where I ended up with this. So it may not be the easiest route to go, but I think I'm going to get a much higher quality product in the end, and that's why I've kind of switched to this. So first thing, and I've used a lot of this stuff during turkey season. I used a lot of it like late last fall. I filmed the entire season with this camera right here, which we'll talk about. But let's talk about the main cameras first. Last year, I filmed with the Sony FX30. This is a mirrorless camera. The quality is awesome. It's a crop sensor camera, which makes it a lot cheaper when you start jumping into the mirrorless camera world, right? I'm not going to talk about prices in this video because everything changes so much and I don't really remember what I spent on all this stuff. But this camera is like half the price of this camera because of the size of the sensor. So a crop sensor is going to give you, a cheaper camera body, cheaper lenses, It's going to be smaller and lighter maybe in some circumstances, but you're going to be trading off a few things for that lower price tag, and that's low light quality and just quality of video in general. And I did find, that I got amazing quality out of this camera, and I'll put some examples as I'm talking throughout last deer season. But when it did get to those like crunch time, that last half hour, if I was like under canopy, like in the woods or something like that, the quality of video really did suffer with this crop sensor camera. A lot of it may be due to the glass I was using, different lens or something may have improved that. I think if you're going for like a super high quality video and you can afford it, I would probably skip past a crop sensor camera. It definitely has its place still, and I'm going to use this camera all the time, but probably not as a main camera on my hunts. But still a good camera. I have upgraded since then. So that's the camera I used last year, and I used for turkey season this year. And like I said, takes great video. This is the camera I'm going to be running this year. It's actually an older model Sony than the FX30, but it's kind of like well regarded as like one of their best prosumer video cameras. And that is the Sony a7S III. So I picked this up, when did I pick this up? Probably right before turkey season. I did film a little bit with this for turkey, but I was kind of scared to take it out in the woods because it's not cheap, but this is a full sensor camera. And what a full sensor camera does for you is allows you to get much better low light quality footage. And in deer hunting situations, to me, that's probably the most important thing, because you're in low light situations most of the time when it counts, when you want that footage. That's when those bucks are moving, right? So having something like this that can handle low lighting much better was really important to me. And it has been awesome. I love this camera. It's pretty freaking sweet. You're going to get a lot higher quality footage out of something like this, and it has not disappointed. Beautiful camera. I'll show you a bunch of footage from it. It's a little bigger and bulkier and heavier than the Sony a7S III. You'll see a big difference here is this one has a viewfinder and this one doesn't. I never really found that I needed a viewfinder with this one for filming hunts for B-roll, or if I'm going to take photos and stuff like that. The viewfinder is kind of convenient, but it's something I don't really need, but it does make it a little bulkier, a little bigger, a little heavier than the FX30 I was using last year. So just something to keep in mind. But it's a fantastic camera. So I do have a cage on it. This is a 8-sin cage, just to give it some protection. It's got a mount here if you're going to use like a shotgun microphone or something like that, or if you're using a wireless mic like I got on here. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. But that is the camera I'm going to be using as my main camera this fall. With that, let's jump into some of our lenses. So I have a few lenses to talk about. This is a really good all-around lens that I used for most of the season last year with my FX30. I paired it with this camera here. It's an APS-C lens, or a crop sensor lens, which works with the crop sensor camera. It's a cheaper lens. Probably half the price of some of these other lenses because it is a crop sensor. It's got an f-stop of 4, which is essentially, if you know anything about that, it's just the number that kind of lets you know how much light the lens can let in. That's not the best for low light situations. It's really good if you have good lighting. This lens was beautiful. The really cool part about this lens is it worked in conjunction with this camera, and it has an electronic zoom, right? Which is pretty cool, because a lot of these other lenses I'm going to talk about don't have that. So I could zoom in with this lens just like you would a camcorder. That's a big drawback from a lot of these mirrorless or DSLR camera setups, is having that digital zoom or that electronic zoom. This is a really nice lens for what it is, for the price point. I think I paid like $500 for it. And in the lens world, that's pretty cheap, because you can spend as much money as you want on a lens. So it just depends on how crazy you want to get. But this lens did me no wrong. I'll put some videos here while I'm talking too, and you can see the kind of quality this was dishing out. The next lens I got, this is the main lens I'm going to be using this year for this camera. I picked this up on Amazon. I think it was like $1,100 or something like that. And it is a Sony 24 by 240. And that is simply the zoom, right? Like, I probably didn't explain that with this one. This is an 18 by 105. So when it comes to cameras and lenses, there's nothing out there that's really perfect for us self-filmers, right? Because a lot of times your camera's right in your face, so when you turn around and you want to talk to your camera and do an interview or something like that, you need something that has a really wide angle, like 18, which this was great for. But then when you turn around, you got a deer 250 yards out in a field, and it zooms to 105, for reference, 105 is not going to zoom in very far on that deer whatsoever. You can do a lot of stuff post-editing and stuff to make up for it, but 18 to 105 is a really good, short to medium range camera. If you got deer within 40, 50, 60 yards, it's probably going to do you fine. But if you're trying to get some like higher quality footage of a deer that's out there a little ways, or you want to get real close up on a deer's face or on the antlers or something like that, this isn't really going to do it. So that's kind of what sparked me to kind of upgrade to this lens, which, like I said, is a 24 by 240.
All right, guys, pause for a second. I feel like I didn't really explain this very well, so I'm going to try and do it after the fact. When it comes to lenses, there aren't a lot of really good options out there for deer hunters who are self-filming, because as a self-filmer, you really don't want to carry in a bunch of different lenses. You want one lens to kind of be able to do a whole bunch of different things. And you can find those lenses. You can find lenses that have a very wide zoom range, but you're not going to get really good quality out of those lenses unless you're spending a ton of money. You can get really good quality for cheaper lenses in lenses that aren't as versatile, that maybe only have 24 to 75 zoom range or something like that, but you're not going to get, like I said, that versatility out of them. So when you're searching for lenses, when you're looking for a lens that works for you, make sure you keep that in mind. If you get something that seems like it's too good to be true, wow, it's a 24 to 300, you're probably not going to get the greatest quality out of that lens, but maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe you just want to be able to zoom in and get some decent footage. Then a lens like that might work for you. This lens I'm about to talk about, this 24 by 240, I think is probably as good as it gets for like best of both worlds, at a really good price point. That's not going to kind of break the bank in terms of lenses, but it's still, compared to a couple of the lens I'm going to talk about after this, the quality isn't the same, you can tell. Hopefully that clarifies it a little better.
Which, to me, there's not a lot of these on the market that have this range in quality at this price point, with an f-stop of 3.5 to 6.3. So this is a variable f-stop, which is kind of cool too. So depending on lighting conditions and all that stuff, you have all this variability or customability. You can change everything to match the settings perfect and get a really good shot. And I have found that 240 zoom actually does pretty well. And it zooms in, you do lose a little bit of quote unquote quality, like sharpness, with a lens like this that has this much zoom. The other big red flag with using a lens like this, though, in my opinion, is the fact that it doesn't have a digital zoom. To zoom in with this, you have to use two hands and zoom in. So that's going to be something I kind of played with it late season last year and a little bit during turkey season, but not a lot. So that's something I'm going to have to kind of learn, where I want this when a deer's coming in. If I see a deer that I don't plan on shooting, obviously I got both hands and I can get really good footage, but what happens if that buck's cruising in and, do I set it to 50, 70, 100? And just play with it and kind of get the rest of the cuts and crops and stuff in post-production. It is a lot heavier. That's one thing you'll notice between these full sensor cameras and lenses and the crop sensor is the weight. I mean, this probably weighs twice as much. There's a lot more glass in here. It's made of metal. Something like this is going to weigh you down a little bit, so keep that in mind too. The last lens I want to talk about is a lens that's, I don't take this hunting with me, but part of making hunting videos and YouTube videos is building a story and making it, in my opinion, I like to make videos that are like beautiful and have pretty footage and have that cinematic feel that, that word everybody uses all the time to them. And part of that is having different lenses to be able to collect B-roll footage. B-roll, I think, is a really important part of telling any kind of story, especially a hunting story. Footage of feet walking, or close-ups of, your bow or your broadheads, close-ups of grass or leaves, getting in and out of your truck, anything like that, right? Having an extra lens like this can definitely be helpful. This is a prime lens. The one thing that you will not get without spending an arm and a leg with a variable zoom lens like this is a low f-stop. You can find them, but it's going to be hard to find something that's not $2,000, $3,000. And so that f-stop allows you to change the amount of light that you're letting in. And what that does is give you that like bokeh effect that they call it, where your subject isn't like hyper focused and the background is really blurred out. If you're looking for footage like that, that's really hard to replicate with a camcorder. It's really hard to replicate with like a variable zoom lens, like I said. You need a lens that's like a 1.8 or lower. And that's what this is. And that allows me to get those really cool slow motion cinematic shots. I keep using that word. The other thing that's really cool about this lens is it's what they call a prime lens. That means it doesn't have a zoom. It's one picture and that's it. You can't zoom in, you can't zoom out. And what that does is increase the quality, in my opinion, kind of dramatically compared to a variable zoom lens. And there's so many channels out there, guys, that know so much more about camera gear than I do. So do not take everything I say verbatim. Go do your own research and stuff. But, this lens, since I bought this lens, and I film with this lens and I film with this lens, for work and stuff, I do a lot of interview videos and things, and the quality coming out of this prime 1.8 compared to something like this is wild, in my opinion. It's just head and shoulders better. So being able to take your video or your hunting story that you're putting together and have like super high quality, crisp B-roll and stuff in between your hunting shots and everything, and your interviews and your deer with something like this is pretty cool. And, secret is all that B-roll doesn't have to be collected during the actual hunt. You know what I mean? So you can do it, if you're at camp, go take a bunch of B-roll footage at lunch, go take a bunch of B-roll footage the next day. You really want the lighting and everything to be similar, so try to do it in the same conditions. But, that's what's fun about videography and filming, is you can kind of build the story how you want. This is a full sensor camera lens. So it goes with this A7S III I got, but I only paid $500 for this. So, you can definitely find cheaper alternatives. And like I said, you can find variable lenses like this with a f1.8, aperture and everything. But it's going to cost you $3,000, $2,000, something like that. So $500 for something like this to get that same quality footage. Yes, I have to change my lens out. I'm not carrying extra lenses into the woods with me. Pretty cool to have. So I definitely recommend getting something like this if it's in your budget. Those are the main cameras I'm using. Let's talk really quick about my supplemental cameras. I love GoPro. I've been using GoPros for, dude, I think I had the GoPro 4, I had the GoPro 5, I had the 8. I think I got the 8 over there. I got the 11. And I got the 12. Love them. So I always will carry at least one into the woods with me, maybe two. The thing about carrying like a big camera like this into the woods, a lot of that hunting story is walking into your stand or scouting and stuff like that. And you don't want to carry something like this outside your pack and try to film as you're walking into the woods with your bow and all that stuff. It's goofy. So you want something little, something small, something that gives you pretty high quality footage that you can talk to while you're walking around and scouting and whatnot. And that's what this GoPro does for me. So I have this GoPro on an external battery mount, which makes the batteries. That's the one thing I will say about the GoPros is something like this where you're just relying off the battery. You don't get much time out of them whatsoever. They're not very good with battery life, so I definitely recommend getting some sort of external battery to go with your GoPro. And this will give me I may not get an all-day hunt out of this. I might get 4 hours. So if you're really smart about when you use it, when you turn it on, you will get enough battery life out of it to sit all day. I try not to turn it on unless I'm going to talk to the camera, something's going on, or, I got deer incoming. Definitely recommend getting a external battery like this. And it gives you really good footage, and it's just compact and small, nice to carry. I'll just carry it like in my saddle pouch or pack, I'll just leave it on my hip, and as I'm walking into the woods and I'm like, oh, there's a rub or something, or here's a cool trail, I'll pull this out, I can take some quick footage of it, I can turn, I can talk to the camera, and that's what I'll do. Now, I will say, which you don't see on here because I'm using it right now, I use... Just real quick for microphones, I use these Rode Wireless Go 2s when I'm like talking, and I usually talk to my GoPro. So I'll have my receiver, which is on the camera I'm filming with now, on my GoPro, and I'll wear this during my hunt. And whenever I want to do an interview or something, I turn my GoPro on so that audio is with my GoPro. I do that because these aren't the best at picking, it's great at picking up your voice when you're whispering or you're trying to be quiet, but they're not the best at picking up ambient noise. They're actually kind of meant to, they're designed to get rid of a lot of that ambient noise so you can hear your voice more clearly. But a lot of the hunt and a lot of what you're trying to capture is, the deer running through the woods and their footsteps and all that stuff and grunts and all that. And you want to hear that stuff. So I have found that running my audio for my voice with my GoPro, I'll carry it into the woods with me, and when I get into my tree, I'll have it on a mount up above me filming, as a second angle. And when I turn that GoPro on, it's filming. I don't necessarily have to talk to the camera because post-production, I can take that audio and put it under any video I want to, and match it up with my main camera video if I want. But this is where I'm usually collecting my audio, something like this. And then a lot of times I'll carry a second GoPro in, just as, if I'm in a situation where I think another angle would be cool or something like that. And like I said, the battery life's bad, so you may only get like an hour on this. But if this one dies, I at least have this for like that last 20 minutes or something. If my phone, or if my main GoPro dies, I can pull this one out and turn it on, so I at least get some footage. Well, we kind of dove into microphones, so let's talk about my main mic. On the main camera, I run a Rode Video Mic Pro. That's what it's called. So I run this on my main camera, and this is where I'll pick up all that really good ambient noise and everything. And it just makes sense to me because that's usually what I'm filming with this camera. I'm filming deer, I'm filming landscapes, I'm filming, birds and bugs and all kinds of stuff, raccoons. Hey. So I want to get their audio with a microphone like this. And having a shotgun microphone, if you're trying to film high quality hunting footage, I think is, if you're going to get one or the other, definitely go with the shotgun microphone and save up for the wireless mics, because I think you can make everything work with this Rode. And these GoPros really do have pretty good audio without a wireless mic. But the wireless mic just allows you to set the GoPro up a little further, and I can whisper really quiet like this. And the GoPro can be, I'm literally 15 feet from the receiver right now, so you can hear everything I'm saying. It just allows me to kind of be a little more versatile in the field, if that makes sense. But with that said, that is kind of all the camera gear. I also always carry a plethora of extra batteries. The one thing I think, Sony makes some really good cameras. That's the other thing you'll find. If you start really getting into camera gear, you got to kind of pick a brand and stick with it because nothing's compatible. The battery life on these batteries is not very great for my main camera. I'll get about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours out of each one of these. So I always make sure I have at least 3 or 4 with me. And they're not big. They don't take up a lot of room, but you definitely want them. The only issue with that is a lot of times when they die, you kind of have to stop recording and put a new battery in, which could be at the worst moment ever. So keep that in mind too. I do have a little workaround, which is one of these. This is a small rig external power supply or battery that I run. 8-volt outlet, it has a 12-volt outlet, USB-C, USB-A. So if I'm in an all-day sit, and I don't really take this into the woods with me too often unless it's like the rut, and I'm planning on sitting all day, because it is a little heavy, it is pretty bulky, but it definitely has saved my butt a few times. I can just hook this little grip here to my camera arm and then plug a USB-C cord from here into my camera, and it'll be getting battery power from this, and this will run like for days. What else is cool about this is you can charge your phone with this, you can charge your GoPros with this, your microphones with this, you can charge everything. So during the rut, when I go on all-day hunts, that's one thing that a lot of these camera guys don't talk about is all the freaking cords I carry into the woods with me, because all of this equipment takes different cords, so you want to make sure you can plug them all in at the same time, and you have all the cords for all of them so nothing dies, and if it does die, you can charge it. So that's another thing to keep in mind is carrying cords into the woods. But having something like this is definitely going to be good in certain situations. All right, we talked about the external wireless microphones. GoPros are sweet like that. You can drop them and it'll be fine. I wouldn't want to drop one of these nice cameras. Let's talk about my camera arm that I use, because I don't know what I'm gonna do this fall. I'm not really sold on it yet. I have the 4th Arrow micro arm, I think it's called. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's this really lightweight, kind of compact, saddle oriented camera arm that's really stiff. And that's one thing too, like I'll mention this, when you're using these bigger cameras, like this camera's heavy, man, and then you put this on it, like you're not getting away with one of those Lone Wolf custom gear like pocket arms or anything like that and getting good footage. You could have all the best camera equipment in the world, but if you put it on a shoddy camera arm and your footage is shaky and all that stuff, really doesn't matter. So having something that you're going to get really good footage with that's stable is probably going to be a little bigger and bulkier and heavier than you would really want. And that's what this is kind of turning into. So like I said, I use this micro 4th Arrow camera arm, and it's fantastic. This base that it comes with, I think, is awesome. This is their like portable compact base that has the extending teeth. Oh, geez, that one's a little tough. And then you can adjust it with this little thumb knob. You unscrew it, and you can, well, maybe you can. Let's see. Yeah. It's a lot easier when it's actually stuck to the tree. But you can move this ball around at any angle. So once you could literally put it on a tree this way, you can put it on anything and level it after you actually get it attached to the tree, which is pretty cool compared to like what a lot of the older camera arms were like. You had to like level it and get it tight all at the same time, which was kind of a hassle depending on the tree you were in. But this is a little heavy and bulky too, but it's it's nice, it's rock solid, and it gives you good footage. The camera arm, like I said, is great, but when it comes to the head I'm using, you can see the head I got on it here. If you're going to use a fluid head, which I definitely recommend, you want to have some sort of fluid head. Fluid heads are, if you want something high quality that can handle that weight, they're a lot bigger than you would think. This is the Komodo K5S fluid head from iFootage. And this is probably the most compact fluid head that I've found that can handle the weight of a big mirrorless camera and lens. And as you can see, it's pretty big and bulky. It's not little. And it takes up a lot of room in my pack. So I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do. I might end up cutting this handle in half just to reduce how long this handle is. But I don't know if I really need to do that because the handle comes off and I can just slide it down in the corner of my pack if I wanted to. But I don't know, we'll see. But it is heavy, but it's rock solid, and it gives me beautiful footage. You can, no shaking, the panning, that whole setup with the fourth arrow in this gives you really good footage. But like I said, it's just a little big and bulky. So let's talk about a couple extras that I always carry into the woods with me. I always carry extra memory cards with me. Whatever camera you end up going with, make sure you read what's recommended by the manufacturer, because it does make a big difference. A lot of the cameras, both the cameras I have, like, you need to use a specific type of memory card to get the most out of the camera. So pay attention to that, and always carry extra ones in the woods with you, because you never know what you're going to encounter. You might need a bunch of space. Then I'll always carry this into the woods with me, which is just, this is like a waterproof cover for like an old backpack I had, I think. And I just, if it starts raining, I have everything set up. I can just pull this out, throw it on top of my camera just to keep it dry. It's not going to keep it dry through like a freaking downpour or something like that. But if you just got some like pop-up thunderstorms coming through and you need to just, hold tight and get through them to get back to your hunt, something like this, a little rain guard thing, is going to be very helpful. So definitely keep that in mind. The other thing is, so I have the tethered fast pack, which is, oh geez, it's heavy as heck right now, which is this pack. And this is the pack that I used last year. Love the pack. I think it's a great pack. But like all packs, there's not like a dedicated camera pocket. So if you have like a real nice camera like this with a lens sticking out, like where do you put your camera? When you're hiking back into the woods, you really want it to be safe. You spend enough money on it. You don't want it to get scratched up. I want to really take care of my equipment. So what I came up with was, I didn't come up with it, but what I found was this, the Matador. I'll put where I found this, the link in the description, so you guys can check it out too. But what this is a waterproof padded pack, a chest pack for your camera. So I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and put this lens on this camera here. So if this is your camera, you don't really want to throw this in the pack and just be loose or whatever. A lot of guys I see will wrap them up in a towel or something, but this just gave me a lot of peace of mind. You wrap it up, and you can buckle these too if you want, and then that's it. That holds your camera. And then I feel a lot better about just shoving this into my pack because it's padded and protected, waterproof. If a big thunderstorm is coming, I can take my camera off the camera arm and throw it in this pack so that it doesn't get wet. If I don't think my little rain guard is going to protect it, having something like this, I think, is super important. And then if you're going on a scouting trip, or you're going to hang a stand and you want to take video or something like that, I'll just put my camera in this, and it's got a little hook. I can just hook this on my belt or the back of my pants, and it's a good way to just carry a really nice camera around with you. Easily accessible. If you got it on your hip, you can pull it out real quick, and get video. So I have really liked having this in my system. If you guys have any questions about anything that I've talked about or any of the gear I'm using this year or last year, any questions about some of the old gear I used, definitely let me know. Put your question down in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope this helped you guys. Like I said, you don't need all this equipment to film your hunts. You can use a cell phone, seriously. But if you're looking to like really up the quality, if you're looking to make really high quality videos, I don't know what market, how big of a market this video is meant for, but this is the type of equipment I'm using. And check out some of my videos, some of my latest videos, some of the stuff from the Whitetailer series. Check out some of the stuff from the Roosted series that I did earlier this spring. And hopefully this helped you out. So if you need help making any decisions or have any questions, reach out to me. Hopefully I can help. But thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We're really excited. Me and John have been hitting the podcast pretty hard lately. So check out the Rut to Roost podcast. We have it anywhere you can listen to your podcast. You should be able to find it. And we're pumped. We're getting ready to go to Kentucky here in less than a month. So we're going to be deer hunting, which is crazy. I'm excited. Can't wait to share it with you guys. Hopefully we can get some good content and keep this thing rolling. So with that said, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Everybody stay safe. Good luck out there, and we'll see you on the next one.